Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's TMDSAS Office Hours. My name is Sulima, and I am the TMDSAS Support Coordinator. So with us, we have a guest, as you can see. We have TMDSAS Director, Enrique Hasso. Hi, if you want to say hi to everyone.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today. And Salima, thank you so much for the invitation to join.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us. I'm excited for today's office hour because if you've joined in from last week, so you can also still continue to ask your questions and we will answer those as they come in. So if you have any questions, drop them into the chat so that way we can get to those. But I also have noticed, and my team has also noticed, that we have a lot of questions regarding coursework. So we saw it, it big trend on those over the last couple of weeks. And so we actually picked up a few of those questions and have come up with a a collective like presentation slash demo to kind of go over some of those commonly asked questions. And our director will help address some of those and present that information so that hopefully it's a little bit more clear and helpful to everyone who's filling out their application at this time. So we'll go ahead and get started.
All right, well, thank you so much for having me. And for everybody out there, I just want to reassure you, we get these questions every year. So you are in good company. But what I really want to emphasize to you is that we are here to help with any questions that you have. Of course, in today's session, just like with any other office hour session, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I will stick around as long as I can to answer every single question coming in. And so, just to kick us off right now, I wanted to share my application that I have, and you'll have to bear with me because I am the worst applicant TMDSAS has ever seen. Because this is just an application that I've been working on myself, just to make sure that I can see what you see on your end. So, of course, we go to the TMDSAS website and we click on Access Your Application. Here's my application. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove us so that folks can see the full screen here. So here you can see that I've previously applied. But what I wanted to walk through is a couple of questions that we've been seeing is kind of the logic that happens when you're entering coursework. So number one, what I wanted to go through is when you're going through your application, you end up to the college's attended section. What you do here is that you'll enter every college or university that you've attended. Whether or not you earn credit at these schools, you will have to enter it. That's part of the state law that TMDSAS has to adhere to, and all of our member institutions, of course. So here, what I'm going to go ahead and do, I've previously used this section, so I had to uncheck the box, and I can go ahead and add a college or university. Now, with this system, the way that we have this set up is that we actually have pre-populated a vast majority of colleges or universities in the state, or I'm sorry, across the country. So, for example, if we're looking for a school like Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas, I can actually pull up Texas State, and it'll give me several options here. Now, you'll see that some of these options may not be something that is the Texas State that you're looking for. This is Texas State Technical College in Harlingen, Marshall, West Texas, and Waco. But at the very bottom, we see the San Marcos campus here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And then once you do that, it'll pre-populate information about the school that tells you that the school exists in our system. Sometimes you may have to use something different. Like, for example, there's a St. Mary's College or University just around any corner in several states. There may be some states that have several schools with the same name. So you want to go in and type in, if you don't see your school, for example, let me show you here. I'm going to say in Texas, St. Mary's. So there I have it abbreviated, but of course that school does not have the abbreviation, so I may have to spell out Saint. And there's the university. So you see that you kind of may have to play around with the name of the school. Just to pick on another school here, I'm going to go ahead and select University of Incarnate Word. And of course, that's not going to show it to me. But if I just type in the word, the phrase incarnate word, it'll give me the school. So you may have to play around with this. Again, this is every college and university across the United States. And so if you don't end up seeing your college or university on there, which is definitely a possibility, you can go ahead and enter a different school. But by and large, I can reassure you that the vast majority of colleges and universities are already in our system. So here, I'm going to indicate that I'm a student at Incarnate Word in San Antonio. So I'm going to say that I attended from which term. So here, what you're going to set is the start date and the end date for my attendance at that school. So I'm going to say I started fall 2020, and I am about to graduate spring 2024. I plan to receive a degree from this school, and here I can indicate whether I received it or planned. Uh, since I just graduated, I can say that I received it. However, if graduation was just a couple of weeks away, you could still say planned, and the schools will know. If you plan to receive your degree in May of 2024, and they're reviewing your application in July, they'll know that even though it says planned, that you've already received your degree. So just for the sake of continuing on with this application, I'm going to indicate that the graduation was in May of 2024. I was not enrolled in an honors college, so I'll go ahead and continue to the major section. I forgot to indicate which degree program I was a part of. So this is whether you have a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, if it was for a PhD or a master's program. So I'm going to indicate a Bachelor of Science and continue to the major section. Here I can actually indicate up to 4 majors and up to 10 minors. So just to keep this very simple, I'm going to say that I majored in biology. Not that majoring in biology is simple, but I think you all understand here. And then, of course, I minored in something that I truly, truly enjoy with a passion of my heart, the classics. So now I have my primary major and my minor indicated. I can go ahead and go to college attended. And there I can see the school that I entered, University of Incarnate Word, and I can go ahead and move forward with the rest of my application. So now that that section has been completed, it'll take me to the college's attended questions section. In this section, I can actually select from the schools that I've attended, and I can indicate that University of Incarnate Word was the primary school that I attended. I was not involved in Fresh Start. This is a provision that's provided by the state of Texas. TMDSAS does not grant academic Fresh Start, but we do recognize it from transcripts. And that's why it's important to recognize if you have already triggered academic Fresh Start at your university, this is where you would indicate it. So you can actually see there's some validation behind that. And then because I am going to request a health professions packet from my school at University of Incarnate Word, I'll select that I would like to release my information so that my advisor can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and save and continue. And here it takes us to terms attended. So now that we created the spot for the college that I've attended, I'm going to indicate which terms I attended. So based off of what I previously entered with the beginning date and the end date of my tenure at that school, I can actually see that 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24 are pre-populated on here. So I indicated that I attended fall 2020, and they use a semester, and I can continue to coursework. So, oh, my bad here. I have to go back. I forgot to hit save on this page. So there we go. For semester, add the term. There it is, and now it exists. I can hit save and continue to coursework. You will have to continue entering all of the terms that you attended. So for example, I attended spring there as well, first semester, and then I'll have to also add that I attended the summer term. So you'll fill this out with every single term that you attended that school. For the sake of brevity, we're going to go ahead and move on. Now that I've created the spot where my college that I attended and the terms that I attended, I can continue to coursework. And so here it populates all of the terms that I indicated, and I can go ahead and start entering my courses. Now, before we move forward in that direction, um, I do have a couple of slides I want to share with you all. Before you even start entering coursework, make sure that you collect official transcripts from all the schools that you've attended. This will include any schools that granted you dual credit while you were in high school. A lot of times it's a community college or a local university that grants a college credit. And even if you did not receive credit from that school, you will have to indicate that you attempted credit. That is part of the state law of reporting the amount of time that you've spent um, pursuing college credit. So that is a Texas state law that we have to adhere to, and you as the applicant have agreed to adhere to as well as part of the certification statements. With the calculations for TMDSAS, TMDSAS itself does use flat grades when we calculate GPAs. However, you have to enter your grades exactly as they appear on your official transcript. So I know a lot of schools have gone to plus minus grading systems. You will enter your grade as a A plus or a B plus. However, when it comes to calculating GPA with TMDSAS, we will just calculate a flat A or a flat B in that example. If you have had grade replacements, and these are becoming a little bit more rare at certain colleges, but if you had grade replacement where you failed the first attempt at a course, you retook it, and then the new grade replaced that, TMDSAS will actually take both of those grades into account as part of your GPA calculation. So there are no grade replacements with TMDSAS. And you should only enter the credit for under the school where the credit was earned. So a lot of times we see transfer applicants who will attend community college and then transfer to a four-year university. You would have to enter your community college coursework under that community college, and then your university coursework under that university. Even if those credits were transferred, you have to indicate under which institution that credit was earned. All right, so back to entering our coursework here. Let's see. There we are. I'm going to go ahead and start entering for my fall 2020 term. So first thing you need to do is kind of take a look at this. This will pretty much line up with what you have on your university transcript. When you're actually entering your academic status, TMDSAS does have a certain timeline under which these statuses exist. So I want to make sure you're cognizant of that. Pre-freshman coursework, or PF, will be anything that you've taken prior to graduating from high school. So the benchmark there is graduation from high school. Anything prior to that is actually going to be entered in your application as pre-freshman. So that will include your dual credit coursework. It'll include IB or AP credits. For your freshman year, that's going to be anything from 0 to 30 credit hours, regardless of how many college credits you ended up going into school with. And you should count these starting from your enrollment in a college all the way to 30 hours. Your sophomore year, again, very typical. You're 31 to 60 hours. Junior, senior year follows that same logic. So if you're having trouble kind of figuring out where it is, I would recommend that you go by credit hours. And if that's still not telling the full story, then you can indicate that, maybe it's your third year and you may have a few, 80 hours of credit in your fall semester of your junior year. You would still indicate that as your junior year, being the third year after you enrolled at a school. For post-baccalaureate coursework, you enter that as PB, and this is any coursework at the undergraduate level that you've undertaken since graduating from college or university, whether or not it's part of a formal post-bac program or if you're just going back to school to take additional courses after you graduated. And for your graduate coursework, these are graduate level courses that you've undertaken while you were enrolled in grad school. A lot of times schools won't allow you to enroll in graduate level courses without being part of a graduate program. So essentially that's what we'll be following when we're entering this coursework. So Following that logic, I do have some pre-freshman coursework to enter, and that would be my AP credit for chemistry, chemistry 301, intro to chemistry. So you can see you can actually enter introduction to chemistry, or if you end up having one of those courses that is 1,000 characters, you could reduce it to something like intro to chem, and that is still very well understood what this course is. So sometimes we'll see applicants that have like introduction to principles of chemical reactions, and that's where it kind of stops me from continuing to enter. So in that case, you could do intro to principles. And we get this question a lot, which is why I'm kind of digging into this. So intro principles of chem reactions, and that gives you additional space if you need to. This course is a chemistry course. So we'll have to code it as such. When we take a look at the guidance that's provided to applicants in the application guide, you can actually go to the coursework section. And we have here on the right-hand side a quick link to the definitions. So when you're entering these courses, you want to expand this list here, and it'll actually tell you, based off of the course area that you've undertaken that specific course, you would label it as, for example, biology. So right now we're looking at a course that's Introduction to Chemistry. So here I can see that chemistry, pretty much all of the chemistry courses will go under a chemistry label. So looking at my official transcript, I can confirm that this course was taught in the chemistry area. So I can label this as chemistry. So that narrows down this list to 3. If this course was, for example, 3 hours, that is typically a general chemistry lab. And I'm talking very generally. I know every university, college may have a differentiating factor. I apologize. But essentially, a 3-hour course would be a chemistry lab. Chemistry lecture. There we go. Important to come back and make sure. If it's a 1-hour course and it was a lab, you can indicate that it's a lab. Or if your university has 4 credit hours and maybe the lab is 0 credit hours, you can actually label this as Chem LL. So that means that it's both the lecture and the lab in the one line. So again, this is based off of what you see on your official transcript in order to go through this section. So that fills out everything except our grade. Because this was an AP course, I can only enter a certain amount of grades. So for this one, I just received credit. And then the last option that we have here is, was this the last time I took this course? Meaning, did I take Chem 301 at any other point in my academic career? I can indicate that I have not. So that was the last time I took this course, and then I add the course. So there is my first class entered here in the application. Looking back at entering AP credit, you do need to know that on your official transcript, your AP credits will need to be broken out by the course where the credit was applied. That means that there has to be a specific course that aligns with the credits that you received. Some schools will just say that you have, 3 hours of English. You could enter that it's 3 hours toward English, and then have kind of an X entered for that specific English course. So if you have an AP credit and your school does not differentiate what it is, you can actually enter it here. Again, this was an AP credit. We've done these examples already. So English 301, intro to English language and literature. Again, this is one you could do Lang, and Lit, and it's perfectly understandable how that is abbreviated. Here I would select the area. For English courses, there is a dedicated area. Of course, English doesn't have any labs, so we would just enter English. The transcript grade, again, is just the credit. Um, I'm sorry, for this example, we wanted to share for a school that only indicates that it's English credit and doesn't specify the course number, you could actually just enter course number XXX and then just like intro to English language. I can tell that I have 3 credit hours, and this was the last time I took English. So you can actually enter alphanumeric items in here. Now, I do want to caution you on guesstimated with situations like this. So if you do get something like this, our team will flag it during our review of applications and may ask for additional insights into why you entered XXX instead of the actual course number. At which point you've already done your due diligence to make sure that you know that your school is not actually offering a specific number. And with that, we can avoid any delays with processing your application. Just move along. For dual credit courses, you do want to make sure that those are entered under the institution where the credit was earned. Again, this is one of those big examples where you have, for example, I attended dual credit courses in my high school that were offered from El Paso Community College. And then I later went to Texas State University. So those original dual credit hours were earned through El Paso Community College. I enter El Paso Community College as my college attended, and then enter the courses through there. The details are all going to be on your official transcript from that school that granted the credit. So I would have to get an official transcript, not just from Texas State, but also one from El Paso Community College in that example. All right. Another tricky situation that we end up encountering a lot is zero credit coursework. Some schools will have courses like a chapel course or a review or a lab that will appear as 0 credit hours. And we did talk about these a little bit earlier. I did allude to the fact that if you have a lab that is 0 credit hours, but you have the course that is 4 hours, you can actually indicate that that is both the chemistry lecture and lab. If you do have a course that's, for example, I mentioned earlier chapel, that's probably one of the more common ones for our private universities. You do not have the ability to save a course that has 0 credit hours in the application. So you would actually have to, you don't have to report that course because there is no credit associated with it. Moving along with coding coursework, I did want to show off some more of our examples here that we have on the website. Again, we went to the coursework section of the application guide, coursework definitions and PCR. I did pick on biology and chemistry because those are the easiest ones, but of course, genetics would be coded as biology, immunology courses would be coded as biology. Chemistry, pretty much anything with chemistry would be coded as biology. Inorganic chemistry, same, pretty straightforward. Biochemistry, very straightforward. Physics, same. For statistics courses, this will include courses that typically will have these different topics taught in the course, and if so, you can enter that as statistics. For English, anything that includes literature, composition, or rhetoric that isn't necessarily like a speech course would count as English. For veterinary applicants in particular, we do have animal and agriculture sciences. So these will be generally the courses where you're learning the hard sciences of animal or agricultural sciences. So, for example, botany, poultry, zoology, livestock, agriculture science courses will all count as animal and agriculture sciences. However, the ones that will not count in this area will be any courses that are agronomy business or agronomy marketing, anything that may not necessarily be related to the hard sciences, you would typically not label as animal and agriculture sciences. For mathematics, this will be any math courses that are taught in the math department, except for statistics and calculus. Those each have their own category that you can include. Anything that's in engineering would count as part of the engineering flag that we have here. So even if you took like a chemical engineering that fulfills both the chemistry requirement and it's an engineering course, you could actually label it as engineering. We do have this other kind of catch-all, which is our other science. These will typically not be included in the BCPM GPA, and these would be any other sciences like anthropology, psychology, computer science, nursing, optometry, physical therapy, and then natural physical sciences like astronomy, geology, meteorology, oceanography. Courses that are non-science are going to be very typical. Like a linguistics course is not a science. Government, history, art courses, not science courses. So make sure that you refer to this page to help you kind of figure out which courses should be coded. But again, I urge you to use your gut instinct to kind of figure out how the course should be coded. And then we'll use that or actually we'll come back to that section as part of our processing to make sure that everything is correct. And the reason why it's so important for all of these to be correct is that as part of the TMDSAS processing of your application, we also want to confirm that all of the GPAs that we create and calculate are accurate. So you can actually click here under GPA information and you can see which courses are included in BCPM. And then also a little further down, you can see this table that shows which courses are included in the BCPM GPA. You know, science courses for non-science majors will be included in BCPM GPA, graduate courses, but if they're not in the PCR, they may not be prerequisites. So for example, a graduate course does not fulfill a prerequisite. Foreign courses do not fulfill prerequisites. So speaking of study abroad and foreign coursework, we do want to go over a few examples here from our application guide. If you have done study abroad experiences, there are essentially three different scenarios. Scenario one is where you took coursework from your study abroad experience and it's listed on your primary university transcript. Those courses would go ahead and be entered under the university that granted that credit. So for example, you took your UT Austin student who took coursework through a study abroad experience and it's listed as coursework from UT Austin, you just enter it under UT Austin. There are other study abroad experiences where it's from a different college or university. So for example, if you're a Baylor University student and you took study abroad classes from University of Nebraska, you'll have to enter University of Nebraska as an additional school that you attended and then enter all of the courses that have been taken as part of University of Nebraska. The third experience tends to be when individual coursework is not listed at any school. And so these courses would not have particularly transferred back to your home institution. And so they might not appear on an official transcript. So you do not need to list these courses on your application. And then finally, of course, if your study abroad experience gives you lump sum courses, you'll have to go back to that program to figure out how those courses have been awarded. And that will indicate to you how to enter those in your TMDSAS application. So again, all of this information is available on our application guide. We're still on that coursework page. And we also mentioned foreign coursework. That is also here in this section. If you attended any university or college outside of the United States or Canada with the intention of completing a degree or program, you should indicate that in your TMDSAS application. So just as we saw those universities from where we were going through and entering, you know, Texas State University or St. Mary's University, you can also find universities outside of the US and you would indicate those listed on here. You can submit your foreign transcript, whether it's official or unofficial, by emailing it to us at info@tmdsas.com. But you should note that these courses are largely not going to be part of your TMDSAS GPA, but rather as part of your official record in your application to medical school or dental school or veterinary school or podiatry school. And so it's important to report these credit hours, but it will not be used as part of the calculation. So, Sulema, I have been talking for about 30 minutes now about coursework. I know people are eating it up and really love talking about coursework, but I think it's time for some questions.
Yeah, definitely. I went ahead and helped answer a couple of questions that um, or just general ones that I knew that I could answer.
Hmm.
So I went ahead and starred a couple, and we have a variation, so coursework, but also a couple of other questions from activities and test scores. For
Hmm.
now, I'll stick to the ones about coursework since that's the topic that we're covering right now.
All right. Hopefully, we can
Um,
get to the other questions as well. We want
yes,
to
I
make
hope
the
so
most of
too.
today's office. Yeah,
Okay, so for this one, this is from Sophie. I go to Vanderbilt, but I took OChem at SMU. Should I list that under my SMU coursework and my Vanderbilt coursework since I got credit for it at Vandy? I like how you put Vandy at the end.
and yeah, I appreciate that. But we're figuring out how to do the abbreviations very quickly. Sophie, what you would do is if you're taking the course at SMU and SMU is a school where that's granting that credit, you would have to enter SMU as another college attended, and then enter that the term that you've attended and that course under SMU, even if you have transfer credit that went to Vandy.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Here's a question from Nara. I took an on-ramps course through UT my senior year of high school, but the credit appears under spring 2021. For terms attended, would I put fall 2020 through spring 2021 since the credit only shows for spring 2021?
Yeah, Laura, thanks for the question. I'm going to make the huge assumption that you have seen your official transcript and then you can confirm that the credit appears under spring 2021. You can actually enter those courses under the spring 2021 term. And you can, even though that may be, your junior year, your senior year, you could indicate that that on-ramps course is actually a pre-freshman course since you took it prior to graduating from high school.
Follow up with that. Also, would I put this as a separate entry even though UT is my primary institution?
It would not necessarily have to be a separate entry because that is your primary institution. But if you ended up going to a different school, then you would just add UT Austin as one of your other colleges attended, add the term, and then add the course.
Okay. This one. I took various classes at various community colleges as a non-degree seeking student. What would I list my academic status as in the college coursework section for each of these terms?
Great question, Mega. I'm going to pull up the timeline that we have here, and this again would be kind of the typical pathway of 0 to 30 credit hours of your freshman year, 31 to 60 hours of your sophomore year. So just take it uh, as fitting this very traditional trajectory. I know that a lot of folks don't fit into this anymore, but with TMDSAS, we try to simplify this in such a way where you can actually group all of your academic statuses within these categories.
I also know that when you do label your academic status, in each term, they all have to be the same. So you can't have under one term, oh, freshman, but sophomore for some classes, they all have to be the same. So if you use one academic status for one term, make sure that you're consistent with that coursework. And
Hmm.
then your next one could be something different. Okay. 0 credit hours. I took a university course for 0 credit hours and got CR for credit. But how would I enter this? It's on my official transcript.
Well, nice job on getting credit for that, but you do not have to enter it because it's a 0 credit hour.
Okay. I'm trying to go pretty fast because I know we
Yeah,
had a lot of questions.
I know
Um,
Megan's keeping us on our toes here.
Alrighty. So the next one is engineering 2300 linear algebra for engineers would count as engineering or math course area.
I personally would enter that as engineering, particularly because for the math courses, typically what the schools are looking for is calculus or statistics, and those two have their own categories.
Okay. Hello. Hi. I just graduated this past semester, so would I still be considered currently a full-time student?
Yeah, great question. I believe you would at the time that you've submitted your application. If you end up submitting your application in the fall, I might reconsider that.
And I think that's a question that's asked in the, I think, financial section.
Yeah, I'm going through that
Um,
right now to try to find it.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because I know I've been asked that question before
hmm
too.
Here it is. Um, yeah, so here in the financial section, you're asked if you're no longer a full-time student to enter these uh, breakdowns of your income, and if you are a full-time student, how to enter that breakdown of your income. So that's basically where we ask that question. So not coursework related. On to the next one.
The other coursework related one
Yeah,
from Sophie. If I took OChem at SMU as a rising Vanderbilt sophomore, do I indicate my academic status as sophomore at SMU even though I only took OChem there?
that's correct.
Okay. All right, let's see. Um, Academic status. In courses, is the credit amount for the specific college of the class or for all courses taken after high school?
Great question. That would be for all courses taken after high school.
Okay. We have a foreign, I think a foreign transcript situation. Hello, I'm fitting in the scenario with the foreign transcript. Which term should I enter those courses under in the US college? Who transferred my credits?
Yeah, I'm going to go back since we only had that one, the multiple scenarios for study abroad. I'm going to make the assumption that you are referring to the study abroad um, section, Abby. So let me go ahead and share that here. So if you're in scenario two, that means that you received credit from a different U.S. college or university other than your primary institution. So just like in the example here, you'll have to list the additional school that granted that credit, list the term where that credit was earned, and then list that course under that school. So all there in the application guide.
All right, so it looks like we addressed all the questions regarding coursework,
All
and now
right.
we have the other ones. So we'll go ahead and
Okay,
get
okay, here
started.
we go. Oh,
Get ready, it's a
yeah,
variety.
here we go. Here we go.
Okay, this question is, I am stuck on how to write descriptions for the activity section. Is there any guide for me to follow?
Great question, Fatima. Um, what the schools want to see in that section is that you can talk about the specifics of that activity. You didn't share which activity it is in particular, and so I'm just going to say that just picking out random ones, like for example, if it's an academic recognition activity, you'll want to list, for example, what the recognition is. If it's a program, for example, the dean's list, something like that might be very well known. But if it's like a specific scholarship, for example, that's part of an endowment. You might talk a little bit more about the endowment, who they're looking for to fit the profile of a recipient, and kind of like what you did in that time to earn that award. So that can tell both why you earned the award, but also kind of like show off a little bit more. In the healthcare experiences section, or dental experiences, or veterinary experiences section, uh, for example, if you're shadowing, you'll definitely want to mention which physician or healthcare professional you're shadowing. Um, Talk about some of the examples of what you observed in that setting, but be sure not to violate any HIPAA. So don't mention any patients by name. You can make references to cases that you may have seen. But again, you have 500 characters in that section too, so you can really make the most out of those. I believe some of the confusion that's come out recently is, do the schools want to see bullet points or do they want to see a narrative? That is completely up to you. There's no general guidance provided by our schools. What I will say is, if you have activities that you're kind of struggling to figure out the narrative for, I would encourage you to kind of take a quick step back and kind of ask yourself, why is this important to me? Why do the schools need to know this about me? And then what's coming to mind is what should be included in that description. And that comes back to some great feedback that we've heard from several of our deans. There's this dean of the Long School of Medicine, Dr. David Jones, who often said, if it's important to the applicant, it's important to us as the admissions committee. So as you're going through your activity section, if you're like, why am I doing this? Think about, why is it important for you to share that particular activity with someone like Dr. Kellaway, who was on our sessions last week, or someone like Dr. Lemke or Dr. Cooley, who will be joining Suleim on a session tomorrow. So kind of take advantage of these experiences that you have to kind of get feedback from schools through these sessions, and kind of use those folks as the audience for why does Dr. Calloway need to know about this experience where I was a bobsledder in the Olympic team, or why would Dr. Perry want to know why this leisure activity is important to me?
Thank you. That's actually a great insight, and thank you for the shout out for tomorrow's session. So, especially if you are a dental applicant, I highly recommend that you attend because we will be having two deans from the dental schools joining us tomorrow. If you're also any other applicant type, you're more than welcome to join because we will be covering the biography section.
Yep,
We get so
all
many
activities,
questions about that, so
all
definitely,
activities.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely attend.
yeah,
Um,
not just for dental. Anybody can join. I know Sulema said that already, but I really want to emphasize like we have dental deans, but they can answer questions about that section like any other dean.
Yeah, because they just like any other dean, they're gonna see your activities and they know what they're looking for. I
Mm-hmm.
also did want to mention, and our director Enrique did host a workshop with us about activities, and he does offer a lot of advice on that as well. I did put that in the chat, and the session that I hosted last year with Dr. Kellaway regarding your descriptions. She mentions the bullet points, she mentions the narrative. She doesn't say which one or the other is preferred. She says which one works best for you. But if you want to check that out, it's linked in the chat as well. I highly recommend that you take a look at that.
Yeah, and the session that you did with Dr. Banks a few weeks ago, he also talked about holistic reviewing the application, how that activity section comes into play there. So, highly recommend you visit our YouTube channel, like and subscribe. We've got some great resources available for you, and not it's not often that applicants get to talk to deans directly like this. So, take advantage of these opportunities.
Yeah, well, we'll continue on, and I know we'll be talking about activities further along the line, but right now I'm going to switch it up a little bit just to make sure we also address this. This is a common question that we often get as well. So this one's specifically about MCAT. So I was wondering how the pre-screening works for some schools. I have a weaker MCAT score, and I was going to go ahead and apply to one school for now to get verified. But will I get pre-screened? I'm assuming this means pre-screening means will the schools review my application?
Mhm. I think one important takeaway for everybody out there is that uh, the schools will receive your application, but they're also receiving periodic updates from TMDSAS. You come back at the end of the summer session and you update your grades. There's a whole new GPA calculation that the schools have to see, and they'll take that into consideration along with the review of your application. You end up adding something to your application, like for example, um, you end up adding additional schools to your application. Those schools will receive your application at the time that your request comes in, or you may withdraw from the school. Then they'll move on to the next applicant in their pool. But what's important is that these changes that are happening are constantly communicated with our schools. And so the schools do not have like I already read this application in June and I'm just going to throw it in the trash over there. As they see updates, they know that they have to come back and re-review the application within the context of that update. So if you have a bad MCAT score right now and you're intending on retaking it, add your MCAT score, release it to TMDSAS so we have that score on file, and then enter that you'll be retaking the MCAT. So what does that tell the schools? It shows them that you're complying with submitting your application. You want to get your application in front of their eyes as soon as possible, but also you recognize that your MCAT score maybe isn't as stellar as you could achieve, and so they see that there's another MCAT score coming soon. They'll likely review your application and say, once we get this new MCAT score, we may consider them for extending an offer to interview. And so please don't feel discouraged by having to retake an entrance exam. Your MCAT scores, your letters, your transcripts are not required in order to process your application. So we've had several discussions around timing your application. This is one thing that should not be holding you back from submitting your application.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, with our application service is different from other application services out there on the national level. So at Team DSCS, we do not need you to have your letter submitted. We do not need you to have your score submitted in order for you to be able to submit your primary application. Like Enrique said, you want to get that out as soon as possible because it does take time for our team to process that before it goes out to the schools.
Hmm.
So don't let that stop you from submitting. Just make sure that, like Enrique said, you mentioned that you will be retaking that MCAT test date, when that new test date will be. Make sure you have that under your MCAT section under MCAT's planned. Similarly with letters, just make sure you create those letters of evaluation placeholders, and then you can submit your application without needing to have them right then and there for you to submit.
Right.
I wanted to pivot back to coursework a little bit because this is another question that we get. Not this one specifically, but it's a variation of this one. So I am taking anatomy and physiology at Vanderbilt senior year. It is in the Vandy BSCI department, but it is not listed under the bio and the TMDSAS course listings. What should I
Hmm.
do about that?
Well, from the information that you shared here, Sophie, and thanks for the Vandy representation. I'm sure uh, it's well received by several folks attending. We had this page on the coursework coursework page of the application guide. I went back to the coursework definitions. So here, even though that class may not be part of the course listing that we have, and that's just a guide to help show you some examples of what's going on at your school. But at the end of the day, what you're looking for is how does that specific course fit in here? So you mentioned anatomy and physiology. We have both anatomy and physiology here listed. So that would be a biology course. So you can list it as a biology course, even though it's not on the course listing. Now, if it ends up being a remedial course or something along those lines, it may end up being changed to an other science course behind the scenes when we process, but we'll determine that as we're processing your application. So on your end, you could say anatomy and physiology, that's biology, code it as biology and move along.
Yeah, and I know that this can be stressful when entering your courses because you don't want to get things wrong, right? Which is completely understandable. I will say that knowing how our team processes the applications, the course areas are not going to be a deal breaker. You're not going to be penalized if those are incorrect. All you have to do on your end is just do the best you can, select the course area you think best fits your course. So in this example, if you think it's biology, go ahead and label it as biology.
Mhm.
What happens whenever you submit your application is the team will go back in there and double check your work, make adjustments if needed, but that is it. They're not going to flag your application. They're not going to tell the schools, none of that. So just I hope that kind of takes some stress away from believing that this is, end all section. It's not. Just use the resources that are available to you. And again, you won't be in trouble if those are wrong. So I hope that takes off a little bit of that pressure.
Mhm. 100% agree.
All right. So I know we still have a lot of questions. Again, just various different topics. So I'm gonna flip it a little bit back to the
I'll be quicker in
activities.
my responses.
Okay. So how should we frame the descriptions for planned activities? For example, write in present slash future tense. How about for current activities that start before the application deadline?
Yeah, real quick answer is these are going to be in the future, so you can enter that they're going to be in the future. Don't worry about tense there, just use future tense. For current activities, you could talk about them as if they've already happened or as if they're ongoing. But again, the content of it's what's important.
Okay, let me switch this one because this is about activities. If I was put on the dean's list for all semesters, can I just list it once under academic awards and put the first date I got in, then specify in the description what I got, that I got it every semester?
Yep, we get this question a lot. That sounds like a solid plan, Sophie.
And just to clarify with you, if that's okay, is it okay in this example to put one activity and encompass the whole time that you had that activity for, or do you say like break it down? Because that is a question we get a lot.
Yeah. So in that situation, like going back to Dean's List, let's say you receive Dean's List every semester that you were enrolled. Congratulations, that's amazing. You can enter it as one activity, and in the description, just say, I received this for spring 2020, fall 2021, spring 2022, and every term. If it was not consecutive, like for example, I received Dean's List once my freshman year, and then every semester from my junior year forward, I might enter that as two different activities. And the logic there is that we guide our applicants to um, make sure that there are no gaps longer than 3 months. So since there is a longer than 3 month gap between the experience of that activity, you may want to split that up. But again, this is not something that you're going to get in trouble for. What we want to make sure is that you're presenting something that's as accurate as possible. So if you feel that the way to provide the most accurate information is by entering one activity, great. If you want to list all 75 terms when you received Dean's List, you're very welcome to. What's important is that you're presenting everything as accurately as possible.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Mhm.
So this question says many other dental applicants recommend updating your application throughout the year with additional hours gained. Yet on the TMDSAS application guide, it looks like you can't make any changes to experience. Please clarify.
That's a great question and solid advice. After every term where you earn grades, go back to your TMDSAS application and update your grades because again, your GPA is going to continue to change, and it's important for you and it's important for the schools to see that GPA continue to change. So I don't know who said that on the app guide doesn't look like you can make changes, but I can show you right now. And I'm sorry, Salim, I'm about to hijack this again. Going back to the application guide under the after submitting section, you can go to approve changes after submitting. Yep. Come on, internet. So here in this section, we actually listed all of the sections where you can make changes. And under coursework, colleges attended, you can continue to make changes to adjust any information that you entered there. If you change your major, if you're non-degree seeking, you need to add a school, etc. And then for college coursework, I don't believe we have a separate section for that, but essentially you can and should continue to make changes to the college coursework, to your colleges attended and terms attended if any of that information changes.
Okay, so that is true for coursework. I do see that Kelly clarified that this is for experiences. I am assuming this is your activities. The
Mm.
answer is a solid no.
Oh yeah.
No, you cannot make any changes to that.
Yeah.
So if you have any activities that you think you might engage in, it's up to you if you want to go ahead and list it under planned. Of course, those are planned. The schools know that those may or may not happen.
Mhm.
Again, emphasis on the word planned. So it's okay if that changes. They know that you can't make any changes to the activities after you submit, no matter the circumstances, just you cannot make any changes. So that's why another reason why Team DSCS recommends that you review your application before you submit it.
Mhm.
Essays and activities, at the top of my head, I know you cannot make any changes to.
Yeah.
So the
Could
advice,
I? Could I interject real quick, Sulema?
yeah.
We just ran a survey of applicants from last application cycle, and we asked them how many of them encountered an issue on their application prior to submitting, where they reviewed their application. 75% of applicants that reviewed their application found something that needed to be corrected. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to review your application before you proceed to that certification and payment page. Once you hit that page, you are ready to submit. So do not do that until you have gone back to your application. And I'm going to hijack you here again. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. I have to do a different share here. Um, but yeah, when you go into your application page, which I have open but is not sharing. There we go. Here under status, you can actually see when your application has been transmitted or when your application has been saved across different sections. You can track your GPA. along the different types of GPAs that are calculated. You can track your letters of evaluation. You can track your test scores. And then when you go back to your home page where you get into the application, you can actually click on this right here and it'll pop up a PDF version of your application that you can either review on your end online, or you can download and print to review. So definitely take advantage of that because it's just so important to review your application before submitting.
Yeah, and quick note, if you click the PDF and it's not working, make sure your pop-up blockers are off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So question from Sophia, what is considered a medically underserved area? I checked the HPSA website and my area has a check mark near mental health HPSA.
Great question. That is something that is part of the socioeconomic section of the application. So on here, you'll enter different questions. You can click on this link to find the area where you've grown up in. Under search criteria, I'm going to enter. Let's see. I'm going to enter my high school where I went to. Bordeaux, no Paso. Shout out to anybody from El Paso. So just entering an address here, it'll show you different types of HPSA. So for example, this example has dental HPSA, mental health. What we're looking for is that MUAP. That's a medically underserved area, or uh, medically underserved area. I forgot what the P is at this second. I'm so sorry. Um, Population, medically underserved area or population. And so from that section, I'm sorry, I forgot to share my
Yeah, I
screen.
wasn't sure if that
Yeah,
was.
there you go. Yeah, so I entered the address for my high school. So here I can see the dental health, mental health, and then further down, primary care. But particularly what we're looking for is this MUAP, and this will give you a yes or a no. So that's what we're looking for when you're completing this section. So from that one, I can say medically underserved. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you. All right, moving along. If I was a TA for the entirety of my junior year, would I need to enter each semester as a separate activity, or can it be one entry input August 2023 through May 2024?
I would say if that was for the same course, you can enter it as one single entry. If it's for multiple courses or different courses, and you think that it justifies a separate entry, you can go forward in that direction. You make that choice, Laura.
Okay. If I am starting my internship June 10th, so I will not have started until after I submit my application. Would I consider this a planned activity or current activity?
By definition, this would be a current activity because it's taking place before the deadline, November 1st. What I would encourage you to do is in the description, just indicate at the time of writing this, I have not started this internship, but here's what's expected, or here are the expected outcomes, and then move along.
Okay. I did want to be considerate of people's time, but we are almost at 2 o'clock. We still have some questions. I don't know if you want to go ahead and address them or wrap it up. I
Uh,
don't.
I can stick around for 10 more minutes.
Okay. All right. We'll try to go speedy round then.
Yeah.
So for academic recognition category, can we include academic scholarships? Also, if we put Dean's List, is it a new entry? Up there we go.
Yep. Yeah, you can definitely include academic scholarships. That's right in the name for academic recognition. And for the dean's list, we gave an example earlier in the chat. So just rewind a little bit, and you can find that answer, Tanya.
Okay. So just wanting to make sure once I upload my letters, it will take a few weeks to be verified. Would this hold back when I can submit my application?
Great question. We've actually separated the processing of your letters from the processing of your application. So even if your letters are being processed, it's not going to delay the processing of your application. And awesome username.
If I list my hobby under extracurricular, do I also enter that under planned activities since I will continue that hobby after submission?
That's a perfect example of a continuing activity, and so that would be perfectly acceptable, Sophie.
Okay. I'm trying to add a community college to colleges attended, but when I search up the college, I can only find the physical campus location in the search, not the Connect campus, online campus.
Okay. In that situation, you may have to enter that campus, especially if it's something that's newer. Um, if you have any specific questions about that, Bluth Banana Stand, you can send us an IM and we can work with you on that.
Okay, so this is following up from a previous question about foreign transcripts. I started college in China but never got a degree there. The US college I attended required me to transfer those credits to them. Where should I list those courses? It wasn't study abroad, it was prior US
As a
education.
form. Mhm.
It was prior to the US education.
Yeah, so you would indicate those as under the university that you took them. You would enter the address for China, where that institution's located. If you can provide an official or unofficial transcript, you can send that to us. Um, but even if they were transferred, it has to be the original institution where that was granted, that credit was granted. In this situation, coursework, since it's outside of the US or Canada, would not count toward GPA or any of the prerequisites.
Alrighty, moving on. If a student transitioned from being a freshman to sophomore mid-semester, should they list this classification as freshman?
Great question, Kendra. I was thinking about that as I was saying it. You should continue to label it as freshman, and then the following semester indicate that as sophomore.
Okay. Do we have to report an MCAT score with our application if we have one? I retook on May 16th and should get my score in mid-June.
You should release your MCAT scores as soon as they are available to you, regardless of how you did. This shows the schools that you are going to report your score, and if you end up retaking it and getting a better score, they're still going to end up seeing this first score. So it's in your best interest to just go ahead and release it and move along.
Okay, if I'm getting a BA and a BS at Vanderbilt, I am a double major. Do I list those separately?
Great question. You can list those separately because it's two completely different degrees. Um, so essentially, what's going to end up happening, say you have 120 credit hours, you would just apply courses under whichever degree ends up. I'm sorry, to whichever degree um, they fit in. So, for example, a BA course would probably be more focused on the humanities. You can list humanities courses under that area, under that degree. For the science courses, you might list those under the BS section. So it's a few more steps for you, but you can definitely enter that.
Okay, I took animal behavior at my school. Is it in the bio department at my school, but does not seem to fit with the Team DSAS chart for classes? How should I list it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to have to throw back at you, Sophia. If the course was in the heavy sciences, then you could probably list that as a biology course. If you are a veterinary applicant, you should definitely list it as your animal and agriculture sciences course.
Okay, what is your perspective on the optional essay? I am debating including an essay, but was curious what you believe necessary to describe in this section.
Great
Great question.
question. Yeah, optional essay is basically your opportunity to like highlight a section of your application. It's like, hey, deans, I need you to look right here and at this specific situation, or like, here's some more information that I couldn't put somewhere else. So, for example, you have a bad semester. It's like, hey, this semester, these things happened, and you can see that in my grade. But from that situation, I learned X, Y, and Z, and that's going to help me be more resilient in the future. Very vague example, but in the optional essay, that's essentially like the place where you can like really highlight specific areas and like make the schools uh, listen to what you have to say. So I highly encourage everybody to take advantage of that optional essay. It could also be activities that are prior to graduating from high school that are really important. There's no place to put that in the application. You can put in your optional essay and how they impacted your overall journey. You can talk more about anything that you weren't able to fully discuss in one of the essays and in one of the activity areas. You can talk about how important this journey has been to you. You can kind of give yourself your own prompt in the optional essay, uh, and really tell the schools directly. It's like you have a one-on-one with one of the admissions deans. What are you going to say? That's what the optional essay is.
That's a good way to think about it. I like that. And then just to emphasize with the activities, if you are a veterinary applicant, you can include the activities since high school, so since your freshman year. However, if you are a medical, dental, podiatry, any other applicant besides vet, you have to start your activities since graduating high school.
That's correct.
So just clarifying there. We
Thank you.
have one last question.
All right.
For dental experiences, I have my RDA experience under employment. Would I copy these over to dental experiences as well?
Well, Surfian, if the experience is dental related, then it could also be listed under dental experience. If it's otherwise healthcare related, you might include it under healthcare as well as employment. But it's important that since those two are specific cases where they can be cross listed into different sections, make sure that the descriptions are unique for each of the sections.
Alrighty. Well, then we are at the end. Thank you all so much for sticking around and asking all these great questions. Variety of different questions, which are all very reflective of like the questions that we're getting at TMDSAS. So thank you guys. If y'all have any further questions, send a message via your TMDSAS application portal. That is the best way to communicate with TMDSAS to ask your questions. Anytime you send a message that is attached to your application and allows our team to go straight into your application, take a look at what you need us to look at to help you out. So thank you all very, very much. Remember, we do have that session tomorrow again with the deans tomorrow at 2 here on the same channel. And then we will have our office hours upcoming for the rest of the Wednesdays as they come.
Yeah, and just to kind of add to the point that Salima mentioned, you have any question about the application, go to the application guide. We get thousands and thousands of inquiries every day about completing the application, and that's what we use to continue to update the application guide. So if you have a question, go refer to the guide, see if your question is addressed there. Um, Take a look at some of the resources that we have produced, including the videos, the workshops. You know, on today's topic, we did do a complete coursework workshop earlier in the spring, just a couple of weeks ago. And the vast majority of these questions were addressed there. So make sure that you're using the resources that are being provided to you. And if you still have questions, we are very happy to help you on your journey. But I do urge you to make sure that you're using the resources that are available to you. And as we said, we are an organization that's continuously improving. So as we're collecting more and more feedback from you all, we're very grateful for the feedback that you're sharing, including questions that are being shared right now. That tells us that we can do a better job of communicating those, and we make updates to our application guide pretty much daily, based off of what we're receiving and making sure that you have the answers that you need as quickly as possible. So, um, if there's anything you need to take away from today, it's that we are here to help you uh, continue to communicate with us, use all of the resources that are available to you. And if you have any questions whatsoever after you've done all of that, we're very happy to help you along your journey. So I'd like to wish everybody all the best of luck. And thank you again, Sulema, for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for joining. We'll see you on next week.
Bye bye.
Bye.